All right, folks. We're getting started here. We're with Program Executive, PE Digital. This is going to be their fiscal year 25 briefing. So I'll hand this over, and we're good to go.
All right, good morning, everybody. Glad you could join us in this nice, airy, light-filled sail pavilion. This is a nice change of pace. I'm Louis Coplin. I'm the Acting Program Executive Officer for Digital and Enterprise Services. We're going to be talking today about, really, it's our standard industry engagement discussion. So if you cannot see the TV over there, you can pull up the website on your phone, www.peodigital.navy.mil. There's an industry page. On the industry page, there's an industry book. In the industry book is what I'm going to go through. So you're not missing anything. Or you can all go over there. One of the things that we've really been trying to do in PEO Digital is exactly what we're all here doing this morning, which is being very transparent and direct about what do we care about, where are we spending money, where are we offering opportunities. There's no benefit to you not knowing those things because then you call us to ask us those things. So we just want to tell you those things and save everyone some time and effort. We do have a strategic planning framework that we put into place last year. As you would expect, there's a vision, there's a mission, there are goals. Those goals are ambitious, they're multi-year goals. We'll talk about those a bit more. Those goals drive objectives. We're talking about our FY25 objectives today. These are still pretty high-level things, and so we've got 6 at the PEO-wide level. And then as you go down within our organization, we have supporting objectives. So they're very helpful in terms of what are the big rocks that we can all align around and try and get after. And then internally, of course, they're still a bit high level, so we continue to break those down. But we're trying to be consistent, we're trying to be repeatable, we're trying to be measurable. And in terms of how we measure, we use our world-class alignment metrics, our WAMs. So these WAMs, they come from best practices. We've worked with Gartner on them in terms of outcome-driven measures. These are things that really cut across any portfolio. If you really think about your problem strategically, you'll probably find that these 5 measures capture the mission or business outcomes that people care about. What is the user time lost? What is the operational resiliency? What's your adaptability and mobility in so many different senses? It could be, how long does it take me to fix a thing or to deploy a new feature? It might be budget adaptability and mobility. We have COVID and we want to stand up a new collaboration environment. How quickly can we make that pivot? There's a new threat or a new opportunity, a new AI solution. How quickly can we redirect resources and technologies? Customer satisfaction, obviously, probably the single most important outcome, and cost per user. It's not the thing we prioritize above all else, but of course a consideration. We don't have the money to do the old and the new. We don't have the money to do the great and the okay. So we have to divest to invest. We have to show that we're good stewards of taxpayer dollars. We have to generate that ROI. So these 5 WAMs, these 5 outcome-driven measures, are what we care about. When you're pitching an idea to us, we want to understand how are we going to move the needle in terms of one of these 5 WAMs. And these 5 WAMs are high level, so you may be saying, like, I don't know how to measure adaptability and mobility. That's okay. We've got technical outcomes that enable these. So for something like user time lost, one way we can measure that is how long does it take your laptop to turn on? And what do we mean by turning on? Is it just to get to a logo? Is it to the time that the blue spinny circle stops spinning? Is it the time to when you've opened Outlook and Teams and you click the mouse and it responds? So there are a variety of ways we can measure those. Those can change over time. They give us something concrete, discrete, measurable, quantifiable, and that's really what we want to see. Let's talk about a way that we can improve cost per user by 10%. 50%. So these WAMs, you'll see them over time. You'll see them beyond PEO Digital. Elsewhere in the Navy and Marine Corps, these WAMs are being adopted. You can understand how they could apply to other portfolios, like maybe you manage a warehouse, maybe you are thinking about recruiting. These 5 measures apply to many portfolios, but this is ours. The other thing we really use to drive the strategic conversation are investment horizons. And oftentimes what we see is that it's hard to get funding for innovation because everyone's really concerned about the fires of the day. Current ops, given the opportunity, will consume all the oxygen and there will be nothing left for future ops. So these horizons help protect us from that trap. And again, when we're talking with industry, what we want to do is we want to see what are you proposing that someone's already spent money on. That could be you, that could be DARPA, that could be DIU, that could be our friends at the other services or across the federal government. That's what we call Horizon 3. That's something that's other people's time and money at work. We would consider that interesting but not compelling. We'd like to steer that. We sit down, we talk to those folks and say, hey, here are problems, here are gaps in the portfolio. If you want to spend your time and money to get after them, we'd love to go along for the ride. So that's kind of a prototype from our perspective. In Horizon 2, we say maybe this is baked enough that we want to put some of our time and money against it. We do have an RDT&E budget. We do have resources to bring to bear for pilots. These pilots are things that we want to spend, tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars on, not tens and hundreds of millions on. They have not proven themselves worthy of millions of dollars of spend, but they could be. And so in Horizon 2, we pilot. And we want those pilots to be fast. We want them to be affordable. We want to get to those WAM-based outcomes in weeks and months, not years. And at some point in that Horizon 2, we might say, you know what, this thing has really got some legs. We don't know yet how big it's going to be, how much vertical growth, horizontal growth, how many use cases, how many customers, how many major capabilities, but we're going to plan to take it into Horizon 1. Our Horizon 1 is scaled for production. It's an enterprise service, hopefully. We have standards and criteria that Don CIO has published. What does it take to become a real enterprise service, get the gold star, get to use those words with capital letters? So it's all the ilities. Do you actually have a budget? Do you actually have an ATO? Do you actually have a service desk? Is it something that's going to be there tomorrow? And that all the folks who don't really trust enterprise services should feel comfortable trusting. That's actually going to be faster, cheaper, better, more secure than spending time and money to do it themselves. So it's hard to get from Horizon 2 to Horizon 1. You think you've got it, and then you go, and you're like, oops, we missed something kind of major there. So we're trying to be structured about that. We're trying to really telegraph what's it going to take. And one of the most important things to get from Horizon 2 to Horizon 1 is to kick something out of Horizon 1 into Horizon 0. So like I said, we can't afford to pay for the great and the okay. That thing coming out of Horizon 2 should be a lot better than something in Horizon 1. And that allows us to move that Horizon 1 solution to Horizon 0, our cattle drive horizon where we divest. That divestment is probably going to take longer than we would hope. Divestments tend to take years, not months or weeks, but sometimes we can get there quickly. And at the end of the day, we have to get there. We have to take money out of the budget. We have to do that DATO, remove from the network, actually close the book on the solution. So this Horizons model gives us, again, a way that we can talk about any portfolio, not just PEO Digital. It also lets us interoperate with the other PEOs and portfolios. So PEO C4I, PEO land systems, PEO IWS, they can take a capability set, overlay it on the horizons, and we can say our Horizon 2 pilot could be your Horizon 3 prototype. How do we talk about getting rid of your Horizon 1 solution using our Horizon 2 pilot? It's a lot of horizons, I know. That common language about what are the swim lanes that we want to map across horizons, we're using the Technology Business Management Framework, or TBM. TBM's been around for a minute. It's a mandate to a certain point. There are many levels and subcomponents of TBM. We've taken it up to the level of solutions. So it's really an ends, ways, and means discussion. Cost pools are in TBM. Those are the means. What are you literally buying? Are you buying like software licenses? Are you buying hardware? Are you buying butts and seats? The towers in TBM are really the ways. How are you using those means? What was not mandated but is kind of critical to the conversation, especially when you're talking to your resource sponsors, is why? Why are you doing that? Well, those are the solutions, those are the ends. And that's what you see here. We call this the pinwheel. This is how we structure the portfolio across the Navy and Marine Corps. The 4 inner wedges there are 4 of the 6 solution types in TBM with some light renaming for legibility. Digital workplace in the yellowish orange, in the gray, the IT infrastructure, in the light blue, IT platforms, and in the navy blue, the cybersecurity and IT lifecycle. This gives us a way to really talk about our capability portfolio consistently, how we POM, how we do acquisition, how we do pilots, how we measure our WAMs, all the things we can come back over and over again. We've mapped all of our actual product and service offerings in that outer ring of the pinwheel here. So we've got over 100 of them. These are named things, and at that level, it's having a conversation. Well, what are you talking about? Oh, I'm talking about my Nautilus device. Okay, I know what you're talking about now. That's the type of thing. Naval Enterprise Service Desk, Naval Identity Services, Hyperion, the flank speed. These are things that live in the outer ring here, and they're all mapped into this solution framework. And then because 4 is too few and over 100 is too many, we've got the Goldilocks middle ring. We call these product groups, and they're meant to be areas where they're somewhat more technically specific, but not so much that we get mired into dozens of eaches. So, what makes up IT infrastructure? Well, it's servers, it's data transport networks, it's data centers. Okay, we can have a conversation about, is this a solution that's going to primarily live in one of those or in a different area? So this has been very helpful. It's hard to check your spelling if you don't agree on what the alphabet is. This has given us a standard alphabet, and now we can check our spelling and actually talk apples to apples consistently. When you go to our industry engagement page on the website and you're proposing a pilot, you'll be asked to tag it to one of these solution areas or one of these product groups. And hopefully, as industry experts, these words resonate. They don't require a whole lot of explanation, the difference between a server and a data center. And you can see how we've actually tagged our dollars on the left-hand side there. So this is our budget. We know where all the money's going. Besides the 4 solution areas, we also have all the internal enablers, which is our culture of excellence. And culture of excellence is actually one of the 5 goals I mentioned at the beginning. So 5 ambitious goals to carry us over a multi-year period. These are meant to be a little bit stressful, a little bit challenging, to be stretches. And I'll run through them briefly because they're how we structured our actual objectives for the year. So in the culture of excellence, really fostering that culture of excellence through continuous learning and an empowered workforce. We are serious about delegating authority. I'm not the one who's going to approve a pilot, no matter how many meetings you have with me. That's been delegated. There are other people who have that authority to say yes. So that's the only way we can do it. If we roll everything up, we get bogged down and nothing happens. So you can't scale Agile up, you can only scale problems down. And that's what culture of excellence is about. In the digital workplace, we talk about continuously improving the digital workplace experience to enable user collaboration, access to any data, anytime, anywhere. May sound a bit familiar from Don CIO's discussion yesterday, if you caught that. The digital workplace could be a lot of things, and so we've tried to say it's really about user collaboration and data access. Those are probably the 2 biggest drivers in that area. In cybersecurity and IT lifecycle, this is renamed. If you read the TBM framework, it's called Deliver. As IT professionals, I think we understand why Deliver is what the government would call cybersecurity and IT lifecycle. Government people don't hear cybersecurity and IT lifecycle in the word deliver, so we did a little bit of aliasing there. But it's really about industry best practices. Those are the practices to rapidly design, deliver, and sustain world-class mission solutions. And we've used world-class a few times already in this discussion. It carries a lot of water for us. We all know what world-class is, or maybe it's better to say we all know what world-class is not. So when you see the blue spinny circle, when you can't connect to the thing, when the download is slow, when we have cybersecurity alerts, that's not world-class. When we can't afford to fully field it or sustain it, that's not world-class. So we're not calling all those things out individually here, but when you read world-class and you think, does that mean X? Yeah, probably it does. So design, deliver, sustain. And so all of our DevSecOps practices, not just the tooling, but actually the practices of how we try and do integrated DevSecOps are included here as well. IT platform, term even squishier than digital workplace. So what we did is we kind of flipped it on its head and said, well, who is the customer of an IT platform? And let's define it in their terms based on those personas. We talked about empowering the data workforce, software developers, and application owners. If those three communities of interest are not seeing value out of our IT platform portfolio, then we're not spending our money wisely. It's famously difficult to get platforms right. It takes a lot of time and money and effort, and they're heavy, so we have to be really deliberate in how we invest in our platforms. And fifth, last, because we typically in this space start with it. And we talk about networks and we have OV1s with lightning bolts, but the point of the IT infrastructure is to enable these other things. We don't buy networks just because we like seeing the green blinky lights on the routers. We buy them because we're trying to enable the digital workplace and to deliver solutions and to have those IT platforms. And really the point of where we're going with IT infrastructure is we're modernizing to have lean and diverse transport, brings the power of cloud to the point of mission. If you've heard me give this spiel before, I always have to say at this point that people say, do you know we can't use cloud on ships because we don't always have an internet connection? And I say, yes, I do know that, thank you. So we're talking cloud native. We're not literally saying you always need an always-on internet connection. That said, we are interested in all these diverse and resilient transport options like PLEO that are creating new opportunities in this space. So 5 goals, the solution types, these things are all meant to interlock, to dovetail very smoothly. And so what we did at the PEO level, as I said, is 6 objectives for FY25, a little bit of appetite suppression there. If we were given our druthers, I'm sure we would come up with dozens and dozens of objectives. I will tell you, having gone through this exercise last year, that it is harder than you would think to come up with a finite number of pithy objectives that don't leave anything important out, but don't have run-on sentences that are a paragraph long. It is an art as much as a science, and it is hard. So these are the ones that we have. I won't read all the print because you can go to the website, www.PEOdigital.navy.mil, and read them yourselves. Our 5, they map to the 5 goal areas, our 6 objectives and the 5 goals. Culture of excellence is accelerating value delivery by 25%. So we are absolutely trying to make these objectives measurable. If we're not measuring, we don't know how we're performing. Value delivery is why we're trying to be excellent. So, it's all well and good to sign a contract. It's even better to place an order. Until things are delivered, until the technology is fielded, it doesn't count. Only the shots that hit matter, as they say. In a digital workplace, we have 2. One is expanding our cloud-managed endpoints. We're doing this for both Navy and Marine Corps. In the Navy, it's been branded as Nautilus. We have Nautilus Virtual Desktop, but we also have Nautilus devices. And those are your, not virtual desktop, but your tangible desktop, your physical machine. And so the cloud-managed ecosystem is really continuing that evolution we began with Flank Speed and Hyperion. We've got some key enterprise services that have been designated. Those are continuing to grow. Some of them are our Microsoft 365 SaaS solutions, our Naval Identity Services for ICAM and single sign-on, and killing off the SAR form so we don't have those PDFs flying around anymore, and really paving the way for attribute-based access control. A key enabler for our zero trust approach. Our Naval Enterprise Service Desk and our EITSM service desks, really trying to keep the service desk in its proper role as the heart of our ITIL approach. So those enterprise services are not done when they become an enterprise service. They've just hit that inflection point where they're being broadly consumed. In Cybersecurity IT Lifecycle is where we're really talking about moving towards our zero trust implementation target. And one of the things we said was that isn't supposed to just be a motto. It's not supposed to just be a bumper. We're supposed to have tangible progress, and as you heard, we did. And Flank Speed got named as the first DoD zero trust solution, not just for a target, but for advanced. One activity short of advanced, and we'll close that gap soon, I'm sure. So that one we did very well on. IT platform is where we talk about our world-class cloud services, what we're doing with the Neptune Cloud Management Office, what we're doing with our DevSecOps portfolio of solutions. That's McBoss, Black Pearl, and other unbranded solutions. And finally, with IT infrastructure, like I said, we're trying to make sure that the IT infrastructure is enabling our cloud service delivery, whether that's remote cloud, on-prem cloud, hybrid cloud. All right, so for the remainder, I am going to go through these quickly. Again, the point is not for anyone to retain and memorize these after our wonderful time here together. It's for it to be a first read, and when you go back and hear them again later, hopefully they resonate a bit more. Based on your own industry segments, you can hone in on the things that are most relevant. The takeaways I would like you to retain are that we are focused on delivering that world-class digital experience at the speed of mission, that we're using horizons, that we're using roadmaps, that we're using WAMs, using the TBM framework to communicate better, more transparently. And we'll go through these, and then we can open the floor for some questions. So and these have been aligned. We've got our goals and our objectives. We also have our internal portfolios. So that's part of our internal matrix. In communication collaboration, which is under digital workplace, we're talking about continuing to scale our IL5, our NIPR, Flank Speed and Hyperion, as well as expanding into SIPR, IL6. We're trying to make sure that our communities actually are making best use of these capabilities. You know, a lot of people don't understand how much capability is now available to them on their desktop, on their phone, in their browser. So that user adoption is part of a continuous campaign here. What we're doing with data labels and protection. Data is probably the hardest part of zero trust, and it's in part because it's not solely a technical problem, it's a human problem, a culture problem about how we talk about data and data labeling. Automation and self-service, we've said for a while that we want to ruthlessly automate, and that's true. So cattle, not pets, and anything that you can help us kill off through automation is welcome. And moving our ServiceNow, one of our platforms, in as an enterprise service. On the client computing side, closely coupled within digital workplace, we're talking about completing the migration to Windows 11, which is a key enabler for many of our objectives. Mobile application management. How we do app packaging and delivery is going through a real transformation. There's huge demand for applications, COTS applications, custom applications. App packaging and delivery is harder than you would think. So that's an area that we're really emphasizing. Maturing our virtual desktops. We've had huge success in that space. We went from, on the Navy side, about 25,000 users of our virtual desktop to about 185,000 in a matter of weeks, because that cloud-enabled infrastructure was there and ready to scale. BYOAD, we do have that, scaling on the Navy side up to 15,000 users for our Nautilus mobile solution. I'm a user, it's great. And really, speaking of Nautilus, our biggest audacious goal for the year is to fully transition our Navy endpoints, our laptops and desktops, into Nautilus configurations. So that is our goal for FY25 by October, to have all of our NMCI and OneNet devices transitioned. In cybersecurity and IT lifecycle, we've got one goal in the identity and access management area, which is to really make sure that our networks are migrating to zero trust, making use of our enterprise service, naval identity services. In threat and vulnerability management, continuing that march on the SIPR side for the MXN, security and resilience. On operations, we're scaling one of our emerging enterprise services, which is our implementation of NSA's commercial solutions for classified. We've got a fairly robust pilot on the Marine Corps side. We're starting to pilot on the Navy side. This is a huge capability in terms of what the Commandant and the CNO are asking us to do, being ready to fight tonight, being ready to fight in the 27 window. So very exciting what that does for us. Finishing out some of the Comply to Connect work and improving our Splunk and Sentinel data integration. And then lastly, scaling and modernizing our enterprise service desks. We've really been thinking a lot about where the service desk lives in the ecosystem. How can we ensure that our customers actually want to call the service desk, or better yet, not call, but interact with our Amelia AI chatbot. But from an ITIL perspective, from an automation perspective, we really want to grow that as the beating heart of our operational resilience and our customer experience. Continuing there, we have, I talked about scaling our key enterprise services. Naval Identity Services has a lot of scaling to do because there are so many applications and networks and systems that have not modernized their ICAM. So onboarding all of those and then taking that out of the enterprise and putting it on the tactical edge, which it was designed to do, so that our warfighters can get access to that same zero trust ICAM experience in a disconnected state. Likewise, we have a lot of applications that have not modernized, have not migrated to the cloud. We've been talking about this for a long time, so that remains one of our key objectives there. And I think we're over 130 engagements with the Neptune Cloud Management Office since it stood up. So we're really seeing a lot of uptake there, which is great. And then I mentioned some of our DevSecOps solutions that we have in-house. So we're doing a lot of work to really make sure, as the DON rolls out its software modernization and improvement organization, that we're optimizing that set. We do have a lot of software factories in DON, in DoD, and as long as they're fit for purpose, that's great, but there's some opportunity to optimize there. In IT platforms, we already talked about maturing FlankSpeed and Hyperion as our Azure IL5 and IL6. We do try and keep a distinction between Azure as a hosting environment and Microsoft 365 as a SaaS productivity application. Closely linked, but they are distinctive sets of services. Working on doing the same for AWS and then getting our Google and Oracle IaaS in place. So we are absolutely interested in being multi-cloud. There's a place for all these solutions, and we have all of them in flight. And then for IT infrastructure, we've done a lot of work taking these infrastructure sets, hyper-converged infrastructure, into edge environments. Those could be shore, where you're interested in resilience and load balancing and continuity of operations. They can also be afloat in tactical environments. Thursday morning, Captain White will be talking about some of his experiences on the USS Lincoln with FlankSpeed Edge and Sailor Edge afloat and shore, which we're rebranding FlankSpeed Wireless. So FlankSpeed Edge is an exciting capability set, and we're expanding that out. We've got a lot of work that we do. We're actually in the facilities business on the Navy side with the non-IT facilities work for our Navy data centers. And then lastly, in the network product group, we're talking about optimizing that network on a variety of measures, tracked back to our WAMs, Naval Digital Platform, which is kind of our wide area network, and the work we're doing with our colo partners. Enabling IL6 deployment, there is some network upgrade work to be done there, and then modernizing the infrastructure and improving that transport. And then lastly, we do need to think about the ways we work. This is not necessarily an area with a technical solution, but it's obviously critical because at the end of the day, how do we deliver value? Well, we have to be smarter. So I'm not going to drain all of these. I'm just going to say that we are actively experimenting. We're taking a lean startup mindset. We've got lots of small bets. These are meant to give us data back in weeks and months, not years. They're meant to really move the needle, and we continue to look for the ways that help and the ways that don't, and the ways that don't, we usher out the door. All right, so I wanted to make sure we had some time for questions. I know I've said a lot. This is kind of our final takeaway. Again, you go to the website, you can find this information. It walks you through the process. How do you sell to us? Well, here are the 6 steps. Read the material we went through at breakneck speed today, at flying speed. Think about how your offering can be captured in a lean business case. That's really going to help us improve one of our WAMs in a dramatic way. If we're going to pilot something, what's that going to help us kill off? It's okay to name names. We'll keep them private. And then, you go through this process. There's a form. And we really want to have our meetings on the basis of a concrete proposal. When we meet, let's meet because we have a lean business case to discuss, because we've got a compelling pilot opportunity, and let's have a really technically significant, a business significant meeting on that basis, rather than just a get to know you. I've gotten to know all of you this morning, so we've now moved past that stage. All right, let's open up for some questions.
Yeah, hi. Yes, hi. Thank you. Great stuff. I sat in on the OpNav blueprint presentation yesterday. Is that directly correlated to that? And more importantly, to the Davidson window in terms of how they lay out the roadmap?
Okay, it was a little quiet, but I think what I got was, how does this relate to the Navy blueprint that Nathan Hagen and folks were talking about yesterday? Yeah. So it's meant to dovetail very closely, and the Navy blueprint and our PEO Digital ways of working have been feeding one another. So we're trying to make sure that we're executing Navy resources in line with that blueprint. At the same time, we're informing OpNav about, hey, here's some better ideas that have come up. Here's some better ways of working. Maybe you want to update your blueprint to incorporate this, add on this language, take that language out. So I think it's been a pretty productive relationship, and they're always open for additional feedback.
Once you submit a business case, what's the average expected lead time until you get a response back or hear back from your office?
So the question was, how quickly will you hear back once you submit a lean business case through the pilot intake form? And it varies right now. We're working on tightening that up. We'd like to get to the point where we've got more of a ticketing system, so you can actually get confirmation, yes, we have your lean business case. Yes, this is where it is in the review process. Bottom line is definitely reach out to us if it's been weeks or months and you haven't heard back. We have a bit of a backlog because we got quite a response, but we are trying to give feedback to you because we know you're sitting around waiting like, did it get lost? Did anyone look at it? So our goal is to get down to weeks, not months.
Good morning, sir. You mentioned divest to invest. What are some selected areas that you're really looking to divest of, where you see something you want to get out of that business?
Yeah. So we're really thinking a system of systems mindset about all the tooling we have and how much have we already bought and how much mileage can we get from it. I mean, one of the reasons for Fix My Computer and all of that, the machines were bogged down with like 17 different agents. And individually, each of those decisions was a smart decision, but in aggregate, it was not such a smart decision. So where the WAMs drive us is where we want to divest. Things like cleaning up the user endpoint is an area where we've already done a lot of divestment, and we'll probably do a bit more. In some cases, it's about taking out infrastructure. When we go to HCI, we can really shrink our footprint. We can shrink our non-IT footprint too. Some of these things don't need massive HVAC solutions like our traditional data centers. As we get to SD-WAN, that gives us opportunities to collapse some of our network management infrastructure. In some of our cloud hosting environments, even if we want to keep the number of tenants, maybe we don't need the same number of SCCAs or different IAC solutions. And certainly where we've got enterprise service, we don't necessarily say one size fits all, but it's mandatory consideration first. Like if you're not going to use Naval Identity Services to do your ICAM, I'd like to understand why, because we think it's pretty swell. So, a few areas there. All right. Nothing else seen. Okay, well, I hope everyone is working on their lean business cases, and thank you for coming out this morning.